This isn't Zack Snyder's movie. He may be the credited director. He may have cast Jason, Ezra, Ben, Henry, Ray, and Gaul. He may have come up with the basic story outline with Chris Terrio. He may have directed scenes in this movie. He may have come up with the costumes with Michael Wilkinson. He may have come up with the design for Steppenwolf and the Parademons with the visual effects artists. But make no mistake, this isn't his movie. Not from start to finish, at least. This movie is Joss Whedon and Kevin Tsujihara's picture. It is neither a criticism nor a matter of praise. It is only a fact. And a criticism. Our story picks up sometime after the events of Batman v Superman, with Diana Prince working as a museum curator in Paris while moonlighting as a superhero Wonder Woman. Bruce Wayne is still working in Gotham as Batman, while also looking with his butler Alfred into Lex Luthor's claim at the end of Batman v Superman that a figure from beyond Earth was coming, and not a friendly one at that. We eventually move over to Bruce contacting Arthur Curry, a Polynesian man living in Wales, who is said to be half Atlantean, and is shown to have incredible power over the ocean. Bruce pleads with Arthur to help him fight against alien forces that would mean this in their world harm. But Arthur just seems to think he's crazy. And to be fair, he kind of is, but that doesn't mean he's wrong. In fact, he's proven right when we cut over to Diana's childhood home, the island of Themyscira, home to the Amazons, guardians of mankind. On the island, there's an object called a mother box, an alien device that contains incredible power, and for the first time in over 5,000 years, it's acting up. The Amazons prepare for battle and are soon greeted by Steppenwolf, a general from a world called Apocalypse, who has come to retrieve the mother box in hopes of destroying Earth and reclaiming his place among his world's ruling class. Despite their massive numbers and obvious skill, while Steppenwolf manages to retrieve the device, Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons, decides there's only one way to stop this from getting even worse. She sends out a message for her daughter, Diana, to alert mankind to Steppenwolf's mission. Diana hears the message loud and clear and contacts Bruce, and tells him just who Steppenwolf is and what he intends to do, namely, find all three mother boxes, join them, and then destroy the Earth as a matter of conquest. Bruce, in turn, heads for Central City, Ohio, and recruits a local student named Barry Allen, a young man with the ability to move so rapidly he can travel to the point that he perceives time slower than others. I'm not sure if I trust this kid. In the meantime, we cut back to Arthur, who has gone down to Atlantis to investigate Bruce's claim about the invasion, where we see Steppenwolf commence his attack on the Atlantean Guard with the goal of stealing Atlantis' mother box. Arthur and another warrior named Mara try to fight him off, but the Apocalyptian snatches the box and leaves. Arthur then decides, with the utmost reluctance, that he needs to help Bruce stop Steppenwolf. We then move over to Diana and Alfred contacting another young man named Victor Stone. Victor's body was mostly destroyed after a terrible accident that killed his mother and would have claimed him as well, had his father, Dr. Silas Stone, not applied technology from the third mother box to his body, and thus turning him into a cyborg. Victor is initially uninterested in helping, but reconsiders when his father is kidnapped by Steppenwolf's soldiers along with members of his lab at the Black Zero site, the ship from Man of Steel in Batman v Superman. Barry, Bruce, Diana, Victor, and Arthur all work together to fend off Steppenwolf and save Dr. Stone and his staff. The new team regroups and discusses what they ought to do with the final mother box, which Victor retrieved from his father's lab immediately after the fight. Bruce proposes an idea to actually defeat Steppenwolf. Combine the energy with from the box with the technology from the Genesis chamber on board the Black Zero to resurrect Superman. This team is skeptical of this idea, but go along at Bruce's insistence. Clark's body is dug up by Barry and Victor, who then work together to actually return the Kryptonian to life. When Clark returns to life, his cybernetics react without his conscious will, and his arm becomes a weapon that attacks Clark. This, combined with his amnesia and sensory overload from his powers immediately returning, causes Clark to pick a fight with Barry, Diana, Victor, and Arthur, and pretty much demolishes them. Bruce arrives to try and talk Clark down, who immediately recognizes the Batman and attempts to kill him, remarking that Bruce won't let him live or die. Bruce insists that the world needs Superman. Clark counters by asking if the world needs Bruce, and is about to kill him when Lois arrives, with Bruce having contacted her right before the fight began. Clark disregards Bruce and returns to Smallville with Lois, where he slowly starts to remember who he is and reconnects with his old flame before Martha arrives to tearfully greet her once-dead son. Unfortunately, in the midst of the chaos in Metropolis, Steppenwolf arrived to snatch the Mother Box, while the team was distracted. Bruce and Alfred track the energy signature of the device to a small village outside an abandoned nuclear plant in northern central Russia. The team arrives and begins an assault on Steppenwolf, and the battle is mostly a stalemate, with Diana fighting the general to a standstill, Victor attempting to separate the three Mother Boxes, Barry rescuing the civilians, and Arthur and Bruce handling the alien soldiers. Steppenwolf eventually gets the upper hand on Diana and tries to kill Victor before he can finally separate the Mother Boxes. He starts to monologue about how none of the heroes can see the truth about them, but is interrupted by Superman's arrival, who says, "I like truth, but I'm also a big fan of justice."
Hang in there, Squidward. It's all part of the job.
So, I hate you, Joss Whedon. Anyways, Superman pretty easily stomps Steppenwolf into the dirt and then works with Cyborg to divide the Mother Boxes. Steppenwolf isn't dead yet, though, and tries to make one final attack against the team, but Superman slows him down by freezing his axe with his ice breath.
Hang in there, Squidward. It's all part of the job.
Diana finally neuters him by shattering the Apocalyptian's weapon with her sword. Steppenwolf acts like he's ready to still fight, but the parademons, his soldiers, sense his fear, a trait they've shown to have throughout the film, and attack him. Steppenwolf teleports away to escape, and we cut to the heroes returning to their normal lives. Arthur just swimming in the ocean at super speed, Barry just running through Central City at super speed, Diana catching a bank robber back in Paris, Cyborg just hanging out with his father at Star Labs and modifying his body, and Bruce hanging out with Clark in Kansas, having bought the bank, which Martha had been forced to foreclose the Kent farm to. We then move back to Wayne Manor with Bruce, Alfred, and Diana discussing converting the place into a headquarters for the new team, with Diana suggesting they leave room for future members, and we cut to the credits with happy endings all around. Halfway through, we cut to a cute little credits scene with Barry and Clark having a race to see who really is fastest, with Barry saying that if he wins, he gets to tell everyone about how he beat Superman. Clark counters that if he wins, Barry has to treat everyone to brunch, a reference to a mini tangent Barry went on when he first met Bruce. The credits finish rolling, and we see the end credits scene proper, with a guard calling for Lex Luthor to turn around and exit his cell to join the rest of the prisoners in the common area. Lex doesn't respond, so the guard eventually gives up and tries to force him to leave before the man finally turns around to reveal a bald guy who isn't Lex Luthor. We then cut to a motorboat leaving Arkham Asylum's harbor, which is piloted by Slade Wilson, a mercenary codenamed Deathstroke. He arrives on a yacht where we're introduced to Lex himself, or reintroduced, I should say, who offers Slade a proposition. Since Superman is alive again and forming a League of Heroes to defend others, shouldn't those of the criminal underworld have a league of their own? Pros. Okay, credit where it's due. The opening montage was definitely shot by Zach, but Joss apparently chose the musical cue. Everybody Knows by Leonard Cohen, here performed by Sigrid. Her voice is just so sad and defeatist, and it really fits with this idea of a world made to be hopeless.
Everybody knows the war is over. Everybody knows the good guys lost. Everybody knows.
And the actual imagery really emphasizes both the woes of this world and our world. A Muslim family business being harassed by skinheads. A homeless man sitting on the sidewalk with a cardboard sign reading, "I tried." Lois mourning the loss of her fiancé, and Martha having to start somewhere new after having lost her late husband's home to the bank. Ben Affleck continues to crush it as Bruce Wayne/Batman. I especially love the scene early on in the film where Bruce talks about how, in the end, Clark Kent was 10 times the man he ever was. Another fantastic bit is during the League's first fight with Steppenwolf, where Barry admits to Bruce he's never been in a real fight before and doesn't really know what to do right now. And Bruce gives him a real quick pep talk. Just run in, grab a hostage, run out. After that, you'll know what to do. In BVS, it was established that Bruce has actually had Robins in the past. If you've been following the WB press machine and the Hollywood trades at all, you'll know that the suit in the cave was confirmed to be Jason Todd's, and we are going to be getting a Nightwing movie directed by Chris McKay, the gentleman who directed the Lego Batman movie. In other words, Bruce has already mentored 2 boys probably around Barry's age in this movie. I like how we see that come out in this scene. And, to again offer credit where it's actually due, these were both apparently done by Joss Whedon. Gal Gadot as Diana unfortunately doesn't have as much media material as she did in her solo film, or even in BVS, but she's still just as charming as she was in those films. I like how the film actually relies on her for the most part, or to tell its story. The entire reason anyone even knows who Steppenwolf is and why he's coming is because Diana is an Amazon and knows the lore about the first Apocalyptian attack and knows what Hippolyta's message is when she sets the Pantheon on fire. She's the one who really defeats Steppenwolf and is the only one who can actually fight him before Superman shows up. And I especially love the little moment when Diana first actually meets Steppenwolf. He tells his parademons to back off because it's his fight, a la General Grievous and Obi-Wan Kenobi in Revenge of the Sith. And Diana chastises this alien for overestimating how tough he really is. But Steppenwolf replies, "My axe is still slick with the blood of your sisters." And Diana's already hardened face goes even harder, and she moves to attack Steppenwolf. She was ready to fight, but it was purely about the defense of others before. Now it's personal. You done messed up, Steppenwolf. Speaking of Steppenwolf, he's played by Rome, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, and even Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance alumni Ciarán Hinds. And he does a fantastic job. Steppenwolf is a pure sadist who loves to fight. When he first shows up on Themyscira, he gives a little monologue about how long he's waited to go back home. And one Amazon barks that he won't like his welcome. Steppenwolf grins and replies, "Oh, I think I will," before calling out his parademons. He also has a nice little creepy moment at the end of the battle when he retrieves the mother box and Hippolyta tries to shoot at him with a bow and arrow, but Steppenwolf just bats it away, and talks about how when he unites the boxes and turns her into one of his soldiers, she and all her sisters will love him. And I also love his little line in the fight with Diana. "So, you have the blood of the old gods in you." The old gods died. I especially love Ciarán's delivery in that scene. And the line starts like he's putting the pieces together about why this simple Amazon warrior is so freaking tough. And between the 2 parts of his line, he realizes that this means she's likely related to the same little pricks who cost him on this battle of the first time. The old gods may have died, But him and the new gods, they're still here. He says that the old gods died in a petty, almost pretending to be a kind of sweet voice. Like he's suddenly channeling Umbridge from Harry Potter. On the matter of Steppenwolf's design in the CG for him, I actually like his look. I like the little bony spurs coming from his chin that look like a goatee. His armor looks like it's based off of an ancient Chinese soldiers, like in the Zhou dynasty, maybe. I especially like it in contrast to Diana and the Amazons' Greco-Roman style armor and the more medieval knight's plate armor style of the Kryptonian armor in Man of Steel. And the CG for him is actually pretty good in my opinion. I don't really see the fuss why everyone's like, oh my god, he looks awful, just awful. Like, seriously? Seriously? Ray Fisher plays Victor Stone / Cyborg, with this being his first real role in a film outside of his cameo appearance in Batman v Superman. And he actually nails the hell out of it. Victor is instantly a fascinating character. He rambles to his father in one scene about how much he hates what he turned him into, and mentions that thanks to the tech that makes up most of his body, he can actually hear the apocalyptic language in his head, but doesn't actually understand it. Most of his scenes definitely feel more like something Chris Terrio wrote. Especially in that same scene I mentioned, and where when Victor asks why Silas won't let him go out and interact with people, specifically saying he's afraid for people to see the monster. Silas tries to reassure his son that he's not a monster, and Victor turns it around on him by saying, "It's weird how you thought I meant me." Victor actively hates his new life, but at the same time, he still values his own existence. He doesn't hate himself, he hates what he is. And I especially love his last scene where, after the mother boxes have broken apart and have caused an explosion, he complains about his toes hurt. And then he starts laughing about how absurd that is to think about. That feels like him actually coming to terms with his new body. His toes are hurting, but because he's finally recognizing these machine parts as part of himself. He's stopped fighting his situation, and he's decided to accept it. Ezra Miller plays Barry Allen / The Flash, and he's instantly likable in the role. He's a pretty typical hyperactive, super eager to be a hero type of character, but at the same time, we do see the deeper aspect of himself. We have a quick scene of him visiting his father, Henry, in prison. And you can see not just the sadness about having to see his father like this, and the genuine love and affection he has for this man, but also his resentment about the situation. When his father tries to talk to him about not coming to see him, Barry not only refuses that, but insists that the investigation that put his father behind bars was so botched, it's ridiculous. And while it's played as kind of a joke, I do like that while Barry is really excited at first about joining the fight with Steppenwolf, when time actually comes to fight, he suddenly realized he's scared as hell. He's never been in a real fight with people who can really kill him. When you move as fast as he can, some punk with a gun, or a boomerang, is no real problem. But when you have super strong alien bug soldiers who shoot people with energy weapons, then you might have a bit of a problem. But I like how after he saves Dr. Stone, it just instantly clicks in his brain what he needs to do. He's got to go save more hostages. I really do hope we get to see a proper solo movie for this guy, or at the very least, I hope we get to see Ezra show off what he can really do in the Flashpoint movie that W keeps chattering about. Because trust me, if you've seen Perks of Being a Wallflower, you know this guy can really strut his stuff when he's called to. This movie unfortunately makes very little use of Jason Momoa's Arthur Curry / Aquaman. There's hints at what was probably there in Zack's cut of the film, but unfortunately, it was mostly scrapped with him just ultimately being the movie's Han Solo. He's the standard grumpy rogue character who could care less about what the heroes are invested in, but has a change of heart midway through the movie. I do like the one quick scene with Amber Heard's Mara after Steppenwolf takes Atlantis' mother box. It seems like Arthur wants to be part of the world in Atlantis, if for no other reason than it's a part of him, but also resents the fact that this wonderful queen that everyone loved never bothered with him. Mara claims she dropped him off on his father to save him, but Arthur still seems a little bit bitter about it. I've loved Jason Momoa ever since I saw him on Stargate Atlantis back when I was 10. And I really enjoyed him in the first season of Game of Thrones, and I was really excited to see him in the role itself. Though Jason himself has expressed the actual brilliance of casting a Hawaiian man as freaking Aquaman. I really do hope that James Wan gets to do something cool with this character, or with this guy. Please don't screw this movie up too, WB. It's Christmas, come on. Henry Cavill returns as Superman/Clark Kent, and he is forced to deliver some of the worst lines in this entire franchise. This is the same franchise where he once had to say,
I'm pretty sure that only counts when you're kissing a human.
and you know what? Henry must truly be the Man of Steel, because he makes Whedon's corny lines work. Henry has expressed his delight at being able to play a Superman who's more confident and comfortable in his own skin, and you can actually see that in his performance. And I like how we actually get to see Henry play a little bit of a more antagonist Clark for one scene. Once more, credit where it's due. I really like Joss's addition with that Superman and Batman scene, where Clark grabs Bruce by his face and gives him a little spiel about how Bruce just can't let him be at peace. And I really do love the BVS callback with Clark asking Bruce,
Tell me. Do you bleed?
a scene so great, you almost forget about the god-awful CG on Henry Cavill's face. Almost. The history lesson scene where all the humans, the Amazons, the Atlanteans, the old gods, and even a freaking Green Lantern all fought against Steppenwolf and the Apocalyptians is so amazing.
I swear I've seen a lot of stuff in my life, but that was awesome.
First off, I just love the idea of it. Like, imagine Japanese samurai, Roman, Han Chinese, Vikings, Celts, Aztecs, Amazons, Atlanteans, Zeus, Ares, Artemis, and again, a freaking Green Lantern, all coming together to fight off these aliens punks because screw you, this is our world. And I like how Steppenwolf actually has to be pulled away by his own men once the battle is over. War is his life, and these stupid Earthlings won't steal his glory from him. But nope, you have to wait another day, alas. And what I especially like is how it's Zeus who delivers the final blow that ultimately wins the battle. Like father, like daughter, I guess. But the parallel aside, I like that Steppenwolf still has a grudge against the old gods because of this. I like that this isn't just a fun scene for exposition's sake. It's something that actually informs Steppenwolf's character. This is really good storytelling, and that's how you know it was Zack Snyder's idea. The costumes for Flash and Aquaman and Cyborg's design all look great. I love how pretty Aquaman's armor is. It's like some kind of formal attire that he likely had to borrow from Mara. I like how the Flash costume was kind of bulky and actually scratched up in parts. Barry didn't build a costume to look pretty, he built it to keep him burning alive when he runs around. And I really like how skeletal Cyborg's body is. Victor really hasn't done much before now to mess around with his physicality. Just because he doesn't want to just because he doesn't want to understand what he's like now. And at the end, as part of his new acceptance, he starts to morph his body into something more sleek. The Amazons versus Steppenwolf battle is pretty sweet. I do wish they gave him a little more of a fight when he showed up, but that's just a personal preference. The Amazons have been training with each other for centuries. They work together like the most well-oiled machine. Every time someone drops the mother box, there's someone else there to pick it back up. Once Steppenwolf shows up, these ladies are doing everything they can to slow this massive piece of work down, even if it means laying down their own lives. And even when Steppenwolf can finally claim his prize, Hippolyta still tries to shoot him. Now you know where Diana gets her never say die attitude from. The two post-credit scenes are pure fan service, and I loved every second of them. It is pure Silver Age joy to see Superman and the Flash racing. And I really like the idea of Lex forming the Legion of Doom as a way of leveling the playing field against Clark. If neither man nor the devil can truly defeat God, then God will just have to be brought down to man's level. Or maybe man will become God because, as Ares himself once said, only a god can kill another god. The only thing missing from this scene is Lex's theme from BVS. I need to hear those demented piano chords and those amazing violins. Chandler, kid, you're a godsend. Bless you. You're incredible. Jeremy Irons returns as Alfred, and while he doesn't have quite as many sassy remarks as he did in BVS, he's still a welcome presence all the same. The same can also be said for Connie Nielsen as Queen Hippolyta. Not as much to work with as she had in Wonder Woman, but still a welcome presence. Lovely to have you, miss. Hope to see you again in Wonder Woman 2. Terminator 2, Eureka, and Smallville alumni Joe Morton plays Cyborg's father, Dr. Silas Stone, and he does a pretty good job. You can tell he loves his son, but at the same time, he clearly feels unnerved by what he's become because he's freaking half machine and emotionally unstable. Who knows what that could happen. And I really love the look of pride he has in the ending montage when he realizes what a hero his son now is. That's good stuff. Cons. Danny Elfman is an extremely talented composer. His work on Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Actually, hang on a minute, that's not right. There we go. His work on Henry Selick's The Nightmare Before Christmas is actually one of my favorite musicals, and his original Batman theme is the kind of thing that sends shivers down my nerdy spine. But that all said, his score for this movie straight up sucks. Not only are most of his themes forgettable, he lazily steals from his other works. No, not just reusing the 1989 theme. One scene in Russia has him straight up reusing his theme from Ang Lee's Hulk. Heck, he even slips in a bit of Alan Silvestri, his Avengers theme. There are literally only 2 occasions where he reuses music from the other DCEU films. One is where he reuses Hans Zimmer's Krypton theme while the League sneaks aboard the Black Zero, which really made me perk up in the theater. I was really happy when I got to hear that music. It was just like, oh, hey, DCEU, I forgot you were here. Good to have you. And the other scene, though, is when he uses a reworked version of
She with you?
From Batman v Superman when Diana stops the terrorists at the British courthouse. Reworked, you may ask? Yes. He doesn't use Tina Guo's visceral and exciting electric cello solo. He just has it played on some horns. It's not even like a neat classical reworking of a more modern piece. Something like the Vitamin String Quartet, or Apocalyptica's cello covers of heavy metal songs. No, it's just straight up dull. I don't know why Joss fired Junkie just to bring this guy in, and I don't know why Danny just mailed it in so much. Okay, enough saying nice things about Joss Whedon. I complained about Goyer writing some odd lines here and there in Man of Steel, but Joss's stuff here takes the cake. I'll take a million dick splashes before hearing Ma Kent call Lois Lane thirsty. In hindsight, it's all downhill after the first kiss. Actually, isn't even that bad. It's still an odd thing to say, but it feels natural coming from Lois. This lady is a cynic. She may have been inspired by Clark, but that pessimistic attitude about people still has to come out sometimes. That's part of her. Admittedly, I don't think anyone watching this film will ever experience their lover die a horrible, violent death and then witness them come back to life. But I really don't think the first thing you would say if that happened is, "You smell good." Oh, and Joss. Describing the experience of being resurrected as itchy is real clever. Just really, really clever. Good lord, I think even Smallville had more clever lines than this, even at their worst. Whedon is specifically known and praised for having witty dialogue, and this is the best he can do? I know arrogance is part of your charm, man, but this is hubristic even for you. Come on, man. And hey, since I brought up Danny lazily stealing from his own work, I think we ought to mention Joss doing the same thing. When the League were debating about the merits of bringing Superman back to life, and Bruce insists there's no time for a debate, I suddenly had a flashback to Tony Stark saying the same damn thing in Age of Ultron 2.5 years ago. There's another bit where Diana and Bruce are arguing, and I found myself being reminded of Joss's leaked Wonder Woman script, with such little chest notes as, "I think you've got some delusions of grandeur, and some actual grandeur, which is confusing. I don't like confusing. I hate the fact that I'm so attracted to you. Just touching you is overwhelming, and I keep hoping you'll turn around so I can see more of you naked." Ooh, 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 ooh. Or, my personal favorite, "You're not a hero, Diana. You're a fucking tourist." And then you have a particularly ugly callback to Whedon's previous work, with Barry falling with Diana during the first battle with Steppenwolf, and then landing with his face in her breasts. Now, where have we seen this before? Alright. Damn you to hell, Joss Whedon.
Hang in there, Squidward. It's all part of the job.
Amy Adams and Diane Lane do a fine job in this movie, but they're horribly wasted. We had this setup for an extremely emotionally effective story for the two women who lost their fiancé/son. Instead, we have Martha claiming Clark always called Lois the thirstiest woman he ever met, before realizing he actually said hungry. She was the hungriest woman he ever met. I understand that Zack always intended to have a more optimistic and quote-unquote hopeful Superman in this movie, but Joss basically turned this guy into a cartoon character. At one point, when Steppenwolf was being knocked around by Clark, Steppenwolf gets back up and tries to attack someone, and Clark says, "Is this guy still bothering you?" There's a bit early on in the climax after Clark arrives, where he's helping Barry evacuate the civilians. While Barry is just basically pushing a stalled truck with a Russian family in it, Clark is literally flying off to his right, carrying an entire apartment complex over his head. Also, ice breath? Really, Joss? Really?
Hang in there, Squidward. It's all part of the job.
Henry Cavill's CGI mouth.
Hang in there, Squidward. It's all part of the job.
Seriously, Paramount? You couldn't let him just shave and have him wear a fake beard when he came back to set for Mission Impossible 6 after the Justice League reshoots were done? Come on! Come on! This is by far the most disappointing film I've ever seen. I really loved Zack Snyder's DC Universe, and this movie basically took the things that I loved most about it and threw it out of the window. Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL's score? Literally, only one theme is really here. The Superman who took his job seriously, but still obviously cared about human life. Hey, how would you like to see Henry Cavill's Christopher Reeve impersonation? The no-nonsense reporter that was Lois Lane? Now she just does puff pieces because she's too emotionally wounded. Doesn't feel like she can do anything else. And on top of that, there was so much just cut out and replaced that didn't need to be cut out and replaced. There was lots of stuff with Arthur Curry in his background, about how he actually has tried to integrate with Atlantis, but was rejected because of his human side, save for his mentor, a man called Volko, who would have been played by Willem Dafoe, and is still going to be played by Willem in the Aquaman movie. There were more developmental scenes of Steppenwolf where he actually expressed how much he actually hates working under his master Darkseid, and would actually love to be rid of him. And hey, there's something for you folks who have a thing about Batman killing. Snyder and Terrio, actually, he took things a step further than Whedon did with the "he was more human than I am" scene. Bruce actually talked about how remorseful he is about all the people he killed, and how he secretly hopes that he might eventually die in the battle with Steppenwolf because it's what he deserves for what he's done. There were so many interesting things that were just cut because Shuja Hara wanted to make a DC version of the Avengers, among other things.
Hang in there, Squidward. It's all part of the job.
And listen, I love the Avengers, but there will only ever be one Avengers. You're not going to accomplish anything trying to redo what's already been done. You need to do your own thing, and for my money, that's what Snyder has always done. You watch a Zack Snyder movie, and you can tell it's his movie. And I think that if Justice League was allowed to be his movie, it would have been great. This could have been to comic book films what Lord of the Rings was to fantasy films. But instead, this is just another Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief. So with that said, I'm going to give Justice League 2 grades. If you're just a casual viewer, this is a 3 out of 5. If you know nothing about this film's production, well, I'm sorry to have told you everything now, and have never seen Batman v Superman or Man of Steel, you'll enjoy this movie as much as any movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it's a hell of a lot better than Ant-Man, the first 2 Thor movies, or even Iron Man 3. But if you're a fan of this franchise, then I can only offer Justice League a 2.5 out of 5. If you were a fan of this universe, then I recommend you see this film once. You need to see how it turned out. You need to see it for the fraud it is with your eyes. I really do hope we get a cut of Zack Snyder's final vision before he left in May. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but all I know is that I'm looking forward to Zack's next film. Maybe that'll be the last photograph. Maybe it'll be Justice League 2. Maybe it'll be something else. I've really enjoyed looking through Zack's films. I always liked him before this, but digging into his less well-known or well-liked films really increased my appreciation for him as a filmmaker. All my love to Zack Snyder, all my love to Deborah Snyder, all my love to Charles Roven, all my love to the collaborators on the 8.5 films from this brilliant director. Have a nice day, everyone. Woodstock out.